Man, I feel like the news cycle has just completely changed in the last 4 days that I have not been on the air. And so, of course, we all know what's happening tomorrow, the 7th Congressional District. That special election is going to happen, Matt Van Epps versus Afton Bain. There are other things. We covered that extensively in the 5. Our coverage will continue throughout the morning here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, coming up at 6:35, Congressman Tim Burchett is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about the 7th. We're going to be talking about all things congressional, House of Representatives. And also, do you know what we're going to talk about with Congressman Burchett over? The documentary Age of Disclosure. I saw that over the weekend. Holy mackerel. Number one, he's all over it. If you don't know what Age of Disclosure is, it is I guess you'd call it a documentary. And Brian actually spoke about this, and he covered it on, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, whenever it was. But it's all about the governmental cover-up of UFOs or UAPs. So we're going to talk about that with Tim Burchett. He is all over that thing. As you probably know, if you've been listening to me for any number of years, I've been speaking with the congressman about total transparency on UFOs or whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to ask him about his thoughts on Age of Disclosure and a whole bunch of other things. So really looking forward to that. At 7:05, Tom Pappert is going to be joining us from the Tennessee Star. He's going to talk about his breakdown of the Emerson polling and also early voting in the 7th. Looking forward to that at 7:05. And at 7:35, we do have Matthew Hurt. He'll be joining us as well on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and Nashville's Morning News. Tim Walz is in the news, by the way, and of course, Donald Trump over the weekend calling Tim Walz a retard. Not once, but twice. And he's in the middle of a major controversy over Somalian fraudsters. Now, we've been covering this off and on for quite some time. Tim Walz, his state of Minnesota, they have all of these Somalian immigrants or migrants, right? Well, it turns out they've been stealing billions, with a B, billions of dollars in taxpayers' money. A lot of this COVID funding. First of all, remember the investigations into immigration fraud. This was a few weeks ago where they wrapped up their investigation and they saw just how much money was being stolen by these Somalian migrants in Minnesota.
What they found should shock all of America. Focusing on a list of over 1,000 target cases involving more than 900 individuals, our officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstays, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found.
Yeah, marriage fraud. You know, like Ilhan Omar marrying her brother? That kind of stuff, yep. So they found massive fraud of the various visa programs in Minnesota. Now realize, and one of the things that I've noticed is that when you look at some of the ills that are plaguing our society today, here in America, we have illegal immigration, we have ICE battling all of these drug cartels and trying to do the whole mass deportation thing, all of that. So we have that going on. We have illegal alien truck drivers, a lot of these folks from Minnesota, or migrants coming into our country and in California obtaining these CDLs so that they can drive semi-trucks, and they're killing Americans because these people are illiterate in their own country. And yet they're being handed a license so that they can drive these massive 18-wheelers, and yes, they are killing Americans. I mean, I could go on and on. We have all of these Somalians in Minnesota who are stealing COVID funds and taxpayer dollars as well. I'm going to get more into that. But here's the thing, and I pointed this out on X. There's one party in this country that supports all of that nonsense that I just mentioned. It's the Democrats. It's Afton Bain. That is what is at stake in tomorrow's election in the 7th Congressional District. Who do Democrats support? Do they support the American people, or do they support migrants and illegal aliens? It is clear that they support migrants and illegal aliens. And my question of the day, and I openly asked this of Afton Bain, would you support Donald Trump's initiative to stop migration from third world countries, support reverse migration, get a lot of these people out of the United States, and all of those resources that we put towards migrants and illegal aliens, put it towards our own people, young American families, and their desire to buy a home and to have children. Would Afton Bain support that? I guarantee you, no, she wouldn't. Matt Van Epps would. As Donald Trump says, that I can tell you. So in Minnesota, they found all of this massive, and I mean massive fraud under the watchful eye of Governor Tim Walz.
In one case, officers identified an alien who had overstayed his visa waiver, who was the son of a known or suspected terrorist on the no-fly list. He had previously been found to have engaged in marriage fraud, which resulted in the denial of several immigration benefit requests. He was arrested and is now presently being returned to his country of origin. In another, an individual admitted to obtaining a fake death certificate in Kenya for just $100 to prove he was no longer married. In reality, his wife is alive, living here in Minneapolis, and is the mother of 5 of his children. And incidentally, he has another wife living in Sweden with whom he has an additional 3 children.
I can barely handle one wife. This guy's got 2.
75 people have been charged.
So far, they found all these marriages where these Somalians, of course, are married to their brothers, invalid marriages, and marriages designed basically to allow people to stay in this country. And so in Minnesota, listen to how bad this is. In Minnesota, they found all of the marriage fraud, but within all of that, I mean, Minnesota's a hot mess. Well, a cold mess. Actually, it's very cold in Minnesota. Anyway, so in Minnesota, they've got all of these various charitable organizations, right? Listen to the title of these organizations. Feeding Our Future, which is, right, food for kids. Autism Therapy Fund. Housing Stabilization Services. Well, a matter of fact, over 5 years, through those kinds of state organizations, $6 billion were stolen. A lot of that in COVID funding over 5 years. So there was a fund that was set up to help kids with autism. Not one penny went to kids with autism. Went to all of these Somalians so that they could get free stuff in Minnesota. Oh, and by the way, a lot of this, I don't know about a lot, but some of this money, look up and see if you can find out, Sam, how much of this money actually went to Al-Shabaab. Now, if you don't know who Al-Shabaab is a terrorist organization affiliated with Al-Qaeda out of Somalia. This money went to Al-Shabaab in Minnesota. Goes from Minnesota to this terrorist organization in Somalia that has affiliations with Al-Qaeda. And Democrats, they just don't seem to care. New York Times and the Daily Mail both had massive stories on this fraud over the weekend. Federal prosecutors say that 86 people have now been charged and 59 have been convicted so far. This is from the New York Times. The fraud reached such a scale that one housing program in Minnesota ballooned from an expected $2.6 million to $104 million, mostly due to fake billing. Hundreds of providers were reimbursed for services that were never provided. Another program that was supposed to provide therapy to autistic children did nothing of the sort. According to prosecutors, they went to terrorist organizations and the Somalians in Minnesota. I mean, this is the chaos the Democrats bring. Oh, but some Republicans in the 7th aren't going to vote for Matt Van Epps because he's the lesser of 2 evils.
So it's still a bunch of estimates as they try to,
figure out how much?
Yeah, figure out, what is it, forensic accounting as they track that stuff down. Feeding Our Future, total fraud amount, $250 million. The HSS program, $61 million. The autism fraud, that was $14 million.
Yep.
And the overall welfare was $1.7 billion. And so Grok estimates to Somalia/Al-Shabaab, because it's an Al-Qaeda syndicate, right, you're going to pay those taxes for the protection, or I guess to not be attacked, And it estimates that millions of dollars are possible, and it does cite one of the representative statements that the largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesotan taxpayer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, how horrifying is that? Look up al-Shabaab terrorist attacks, won't you? Because I would love for the people of Minnesota to understand what it is that they are funding. So, of course, Tim Walz was asked about all this. And by the way, the president did indeed call Tim Walz a retard. I don't condone the use of such language. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I hate that word. However, I mean, when Democrats are calling Republicans white supremacists and Nazis and all the rest of that nonsense, really don't care. Not going to pearl clutch over the term retard if they're calling us all of those other things. Anyway, so Tim Walz was asked about all this.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with it.
By the way, this is Donald, real quick, this is Donald Trump, where he does indeed use the word retard.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with it. Absolutely, sure. You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
I mean, listen, there is something wrong with Walz.
I thought that when I watched him try to load a shotgun.
Have you seen, by the way, I think I posted this on X. Oh, my goodness gracious. It was so funny. So on X, if you follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show, just scroll down and find the video. Somebody compiled a video of Tim Walz and doing all of the stage gyrations. You know how he does when he's like doing the double wave and all that kind of stuff. And they put it to music. They put it to ABBA, Dancing Queen. Oh, my goodness. It is so... If you want to laugh this morning, I don't want to be kicked off YouTube, so I can't play Dancing Queen. But it's Tim Walz and his stage gyrations to the tune of Dancing Queen. Oh, it is... And what's so funny is that he looks right at home. And, of course, by the way, accompanied all that was President Trump's quote where he said, I think this was in a post on social media, where he said, I didn't really think that, men could have periods like the Democrats say. And then I met Tim Walz. That's what President Trump said. By the way, speaking of Tim Walz, this is how he answers all of these accusations that he presided over an incredibly corrupt state where Somalians got, over the past probably year and a half, it's been like, I don't know, well over $1 billion. Over the last many years, it's been like $5 billion. So the more recent, like over the last year and a half, couple of years, it's been a couple $1 billion. But over the long haul, like over the last 5 years or so since COVID, it's been like somewhere around $5 billion that has been stolen by the Somalian people in Minnesota. I mean, Tim Walz, if you've stopped dancing, what do you say about all this?
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems.
So, number one, clearly not taking responsibility. That's number one. Number two, Tim Walz has been the governor of Minnesota for like years. And so this all started under his purview, under his watch. And I think he was a congressman before that. Wasn't he a congressman before that in Minnesota? I believe that he was. So he can talk big about putting people in jail, but the reality is that all of this began under his watch.
responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion.
All right, so you were telling me off the air, Department of Health and Human Services in Minnesota, they're saying once they get all the forensics done, they are going to estimate that it could be $8 to $10 billion.
Yeah, in a tweet from earlier when the news broke, as they uncover layers of fraud, $8 billion of fraud since 2017 is a low estimate.
Wow.
Fraud investigations may never end, but we believe they'll top $10 billion by the time we're done researching.
That is insane. And by the way, you know what they have also done? That very same department also came out with a tweet, and they said that they've been calling out the fraud. Whistleblowers have been calling out fraud, and Tim Walz, the governor, has been targeting those whistleblowers.
Yep.
Trying to shut them down.
Yeah, and this tweet kind of blows the whistle on how he, they claim he disempowered the office of the legislative auditor. I mean,
yeah.
To tell an office not to look into something?
So when you say, oh, I'm not going to, because let me ask you this question. Who do you think Tim Walz supports? And who do you think Afton Bain supports? Do you think Tim Walz supports Afton Bain? Of course he does. Do you think Afton Bain supports Tim Walz? Of course.
She probably praises the whole tampons in the boys' locker room idea.
So you people that are like, oh, I'm not going to vote for Matt Van Epps, the lesser of two evils. Really? So this is what you want to usher into the 7th Congressional District. Doesn't make any sense to me. So I love that he's like, oh, don't demonize an entire group of people. It's not just the Somalians. Okay. So don't talk about the problem. Just get defensive and talk about how racist it is, apparently, to discuss it. So now President Trump is looking to end the temporary protective status of Somalian nationals living in Minnesota, which I think is smart. But honestly, will it solve the problem? Probably not. But what you need to do, you need to go in there. You need to root out the fraud in Minnesota, both from an immigration standpoint and from a financial fraud standpoint. Welcome on into the program, Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman, always great to have you on. One of the things that I'm going to ask you about, but it's going to be at the tail end of the interview, I did watch over the weekend, Age of Disclosure. Man, you're all over that. And you and I have been talking about, UFOs and UAPs for a long time. So I want to get your feedback on how you think that whole thing turned out. But first, I, of course, have some business to discuss with you, Congressman. Let's talk about the 7th Congressional District tomorrow. I know that you have been advocating for Matt Van Epps. Talk about if you have any concerns about tomorrow's special election.
As a matter of fact, I'm headed over right now for an event he's having this morning. Speaker of the House is going to be there, and I think the governor, I think Marsha Blackburn, and some others are going to be there. So, yeah, I'm very concerned about it. There's two ways to run, scared and unopposed. He's running against a homegrown Marxist. She was educated in Knoxville, Tennessee, at Webb School in Knoxville. And, it shows we're completely asleep at the switch. We have turned our country over to this bunch. We have turned one political party is completely run by this group. Everybody's saying she's the extreme part of the party. Heck no, she's the mainstream of the Democrat Party. This is what every single Democrat in Congress is for. They always say, oh, they're a moderate Democrat. Well, hell no, they're not a moderate Democrat. They conform to everything they've got. They want to tear down our border. They want to defund our police. They want to neuter our military, and they don't care how much money they spend to do it. And it's exactly what's going on with this country. And if Matt Van Epps does not win, it could be the tipping point, because you have people leaving Congress. We're 3 people away from losing the majority, 1 flu season away from literally 3. We have a bad case of flu run through there, and Mike Johnson is no longer the speaker. Hakeem Jeffries is the speaker, and it will be impeachment, impeachment, impeachment. It'll be girls competing against boys in sports, boys in girls' bathrooms, transgender surgery, everything. All this crazy stuff you think is a bunch of conspiracy theorists? No, it is the reality, and it's our own fault. We've allowed this to happen. 12% of the population will go to the polls. About 45% of the so-called evangelical Christians will not vote. 30% of gun owners will not vote. They're not going to take it from us, brother. We're going to give it to them, and we better wake up. And this is the canary in the cave right here. If Matt Van Epps does not win, it could be a tipping point in the history of our country.
Well, and you're right, Congressman Tim Burchett. And, of course, everybody's looking at this. And if Afton Bain does win, then there's national ramifications for that heading into the midterm elections, because this would give an indication that, there's so much momentum on the other side, on the Democrat side. One of the things I am combating this morning, and I really have been for a while now, is there are, and I know you've kind of touched on it, but I want you to expand on it if you could. There's a lot of people who are conservatives who are saying that Matt Van Epps is, and I'm going to quote here, the lesser of two evils. And I don't really understand that. This is a good Republican.
That couldn't be anything farther from the truth. We better just put that aside. That is ridiculous talk. That's just, we got your candidate didn't win, so now we're just going to crash the country, and that's exactly that line of thought. You get behind a guy like this, and you promote him and you push him, and he'll be a great conservative. I have no doubt. But that kind of talk gets us beat, and I know it, and I get it. People got their feelings hurt in the campaigns. I do every year, and I don't understand. But Matt Van Epps is our candidate. He's as conservative. He's strong. He's good on all the issues. I think it's a good time to give a guy like this a chance. I think he can do the job.
You know what's interesting, Congressman, and I made note of this earlier. So I've noticed it with Afton Bain. Almost every answer that she gives, it ends with Republicans are the party of millionaires and billionaires and all of this other nonsense. Meantime, she is doing an event, I think it's today, with Al Gore worth $300 million. Hypocritical.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he came to office, he's worth a few million then too. I mean, the guy was not, he claims to be a Tennessean. I don't think he was conceived in Tennessee, and I'm pretty sure he was not even born in Tennessee. His father was a very liberal U.S. senator. You can go back on him enough. His far left viewpoints, and it's just do as I say, not as I do. Remember, he's always concerned about energy conservation. And his mansion over there in Nashville, it used up what about 5 normal houses in the Davidson County area would use in a daytime. Look, this bunch is out to get us. They do not like our country. They do not like anything we stand for. And to think that everybody was doing the victory lap when Kamala Harris came in, that was an indicator that they thought this thing they got a shot at this thing, because it's an off election year. Republicans are notoriously asleep at the switch in off elections. They're calling for weather. That's why early voting's important. You didn't get to early voting? Tough. Get off your ass and get to the polls. My father fought for this country. He fought for what we had. To the day he died, I'd have to wake him up by grabbing his big toe. I couldn't wake him up over the top of him because he might wake up on one of those islands in the Pacific. He was in the Marine Corps. My mama lost her brother fighting the Nazis for the American way of life. To think that we're going to throw all that away, we might as well spit on their graves. And if we're going to vote for that lady, she does not represent our values. I mean, just when she comes out and arrogantly says she doesn't like country music, I mean, that is Nashville. That is the backbone of this great state. It tells our story, but yet she hates our story. She hates what this country is about. She's part of that limousine liberal crowd that run around and is arrogant. And I asked my dad one time, I said, I can't understand why these Hollywood types all these people are communists. I said, that doesn't make any sense, because they'll lose everything. No, they'll be the ones in the big house. You and I will be out there scraping in line to get a handful of food. And that is exactly what we're running into. We're going to run this thing. They want to create a woke-utopia, if you will, of all this liberal garbage that does not. Look what it's done for California. Look what it's done to New York. Look what it's done to Chicago, Illinois. Once great communities now are destroyed, and the people are moving here in droves to get away from that. And I want to hear people quit griping about all these Yankees moving down here that, you know, they're going to try to change us. Heck no. They see how bad it is where they came from. They're here to get away from it, and they're warning us about it. She is a homegrown Marxist. Get that through our thick heads. We've got to wake up or we will lose this country.
Real quickly, Congressman Tim Burchett is joining us. You mentioned a number of different Democrat-run cities. All right, Congressman, real quick. We know I spent some time earlier talking about what is going on in Minnesota with all of these Somalians, all the fraud, some of that money going to al-Shabaab. You've been on this for the same kind of thing for a long time because, as you know, sir, we have been sending money to the Taliban for years, and you've been fighting this. I can't imagine you were surprised by what Tim Walz has allowed in Minnesota.
Not one bit. We're sending $40 million a week to the Taliban, and I can't get it out of our U.S. Senate right now. I can't even get a hearing in the committee, and it's ridiculous. I'm hoping to have a nice conversation with Senator Haggerty this morning, who serves on that committee. But it is ridiculous, and it's the tip of the iceberg. It's NGOs that the Democrats are funding. Look, Obama brought in all those Somalians. Everybody thinks they're going to assimilate. Heck no. They're going to congregate in their own people, and that's exactly what they've done. They've got Omar in Congress, and she is as far left as they come. And what have they got? They got a scam using kids with autism to draw money in. It's just one of them that they're using. They're using others for. There's a Medicaid one. There's one on the food stamps, and it's just hundreds of millions of dollars that we know are coming out of Minnesota. Now you multiply that across this great country, and this thing is, I mean, we are hanging on by a thread. We're $36 trillion in debt, and we're funding our terrorists. Folks, they will hate us for free, and we've got to get to the bottom of it. And Congress has got to quit writing tough letters and having hearings and studying it. We know what they're doing. We've got to go after them. We've got to outlaw it. We've got to push our Justice Department to do what's right.
All right, real quick, Congressman Tim Burchett is joining us. Age of disclosure. Now, did you know that you are going to be featured so heavily in this? I think is it Netflix? Whatever it is. A lot of people. Yeah. Did you know you were going to be featured in that so much? It's about, for folks that haven't seen it, it's about essentially a government cover-up of UFOs.
Yeah, well, I was the first person to speak about it. I was the one that forced us to have the committee meeting over UFOs, and we uncovered, and I've been saying that we're spending billions of dollars studying something. I don't care if you believe in little green men or flying saucers or what, but why is the government, why is almost every alphabet agency except maybe TVA and the IRS, why do they have a division that is, in fact, studying UFOs? And if they don't exist, then what the heck are we spending all this money on? That's the question. I just want to know what we're spending the money on and disclose it to the population. It fits in with all the arrogance of government. We don't want to let the people know, but we don't think they can handle it. Well, I think it's not the government's job to decide what I can handle or not when the government's spending my dadgum money on it. So that's what it's about. It has some world-class scientists who have made claims that they've worked on the craft, they've seen alien bodies, and these are people that are they have nothing to gain and everything to lose. They're government officials, former government officials in there, and it's just basically a series of interviews, and that's what it's about. It's about all their discussions and discoveries of UFOs. So I think I guess it takes about an hour and a half. The first half, I'm not even in it, and then the last half, they had me in there multiple times. But, yeah, I've given a lot of interviews on it, and I've been very vocal about my distrust of the federal government. So do you think, Congressman, this can be a yes or no,
Do you think that based on this, what I would call an incredible documentary, do you think we'll ever really find out what the truth is officially from the CIA and some of these other three-letter agencies?
No, because they'll tell us two different, even the members of Congress, and they both think they're telling the truth, unless we have a president with the guts to get it out and doesn't listen to the beautiful people that are whispering in their ear for whatever reason.
All right, so real quickly, Congressman, I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball, and I apologize in advance, and you don't have to answer now. But
that's all right.
I know that you are becoming famous for your Burchett boards, right? Your skateboards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that you're maybe not allowed to make these Burchett boards. I'm not exactly sure what the policy is. I know that your complaint has been that, you know, these politicians can get rich off insider trading, but you can't even make a skateboard. Are you allowed to make those for charity? Because, you know, we do this thing for the Nashville Rescue Mission every year, and it would sure be neat if next year we could have one to auction off.
Yeah, I'll get you one next year. It's just they won't let me sell them under my name or something ridiculous, and you have members of Congress who have car dealerships in their name. So I think they're very selective in who they enforce their stupid rules on. We ought to just let people do what they can do, and just report it and let their voters decide if they think that's legit or not. Just total disclosure. Yep. That's all. It's just transparency is all we need. I'm working on a piece of legislation to do just that, but Congress is pretty gutless, so we'll see if they do anything this year.
So how long does it take to make a Burchett board?
Anywhere from 2 hours to, there's several processes I use, so, and I kind of develop some stuff. I use bamboo, I use banana fibers, I use oak, I use all these other different things. It just depends on the board. You know, I compress them, I use veneers, I do all kinds of crazy stuff. I guess I've probably got 15 right now that have gone through that I did during our off time, and I do them at night when I don't sleep. So I tweeted about one last night. I have it in the press, and you can see what it's like. They're all different. I really probably need to get a standardized one because it's not, I just use what I got. If I find a piece of wood on the side of the road, I'm going to turn it into a skateboard.
Well, listen, we have a year. So if you can arrange or make one for the Nashville Rescue Mission for us to auction off for charity, that would be incredible.
You got it. You just get with Thomas in my campaign office, and we'll get one on it. We'll get one to you, I promise.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much, Congressman Tim Burchett, and always appreciate your availability.